Uh, Hello, Algebra 1 students. I apologize for not being in school today, and I also apologize for my poor voice. But I'm going to create the Topic 11 Part 1 Bellworks. There are two videos. We'll do the first slides on one video. This is just introducing you to the different types of presentations of data, dot plots, histograms, and box plots. And then the second video will be on comparing and then talking about mean and standard deviation. All right, so the first question says, in the dot plot of Manuel's fuel efficiency data, what might account for the outlier? Okay, so if we take a look at this dot plot, right? So an outlier is defined as a data point that is far away from the other ones. So if we look at this group right here, right, I would call this a cluster, right? That is where most of the data is. And then we have these two kind of loner dots right there. Now, this one is kind of close to those ones, so I don't think I would call it an outlier, but this 45 for sure would be an outlier. So 45 would be the outlier. Okay. And again, this is fuel efficiency, miles per gallon. Now, this data is kind of outdated because I think more cars are a little bit higher in the 30s. But again, with the invention of hybrid cars and electric cars, that is where you get these outliers. And again, I would say that they're no longer outliers anymore, but when this data was first presented, 45 would have been an outlier, and it was probably either a hybrid car or an electric car. Okay, the next one. A teacher gave her students a 10-point quiz. In the dot plot, each dot represents the score. How can the teacher use the dot plot to summarize the scores? So what I would do here in the dot plot is I would look for a measure of center, and I would look for a measure of spread. So if I look for a center, I'm looking for the hump, the score that gets the most results, right? I guess they're called peaks. So I'm looking for the peak. And if I look here, the peak occurs right here in this column of dots, which is on the 6. So I would say that on average, or a lot of students got around a 6. So 6 out of 10. And then when I look at spread, in this case, I'm going to do what's called the range, right? So for my spread, I'm going to do the range. And the range is going to be the highest score, which is a 9, minus the lowest score, which is a 3. Notice it's not how many dots there are, it's the score down here, 9 and 3, because that's the highest score someone got, and that's the lowest score someone got. So 9 minus 3 is also 6. So I would say that this data is centered around a 6 with a spread of about 6. And that's how I would summarize the data. Okay, next. Okay, it says based on the random sample of 30 viewers, what age group would be a good match for products advertised on this TV show? Explain. So again, what this is a TV show. They're running advertisements or commercials, and they're trying to get the age group that they should focus their ads on. So if you notice here, we're looking for the peak of this histogram. So this is a histogram. If I look here, the peak of the histogram is right here. Right? Now notice these bars represent ranges. So this is 15 to 19 and 20 to 24. We don't know the exact ages of these people, but we know they're in those ranges. So if I was to guess what age group, I would say between 15 and 24 because it's the peak. And again, because it's the peak, that means it's the most frequent. Remember over here, the frequency tells you how many people fall in that category. So because this bar goes up to 10, there are 10 people aged 15 to 19 and 10 people aged 20 to 24. That's a histogram. All right, next, it says, suppose Caitlin wants to make the statement that 25% of the 24 students she sampled raised over a certain amount for the charity. What is the amount? Explain. So this right here is called a box plot. And let's remember that there are 5 important numbers. There's the minimum and the maximum. Then there's the median. And then there's the first quartile and the third quartile. And again, between these 5 numbers is groups of 25% of the data. So between the minimum first quarter is 25, here is 25, there is 25, and then out here is 25. So this is the lower 25, this is the upper 25, and together we call this box right here in the middle, we call it the middle 50. So it's the middle 50%. So this girl, Caitlin, wants to make the statement that 25% of the 24 students raised over a certain amount. So this means we want the upper 25%, which means we're looking for the third quartile. We want to identify how much was given to be in this group right here, the upper 25%. So we're just going to look at the third quartile. And if I look at the third quartile, if I come down here, it looks like it is the next number after 50. We are counting by twos, right? 42, 44. So that would be 52. So it looks like $52 is the number that more than 25% or 25% gave over that amount. All right, perfect. And then last one on this video. So how does the IQR of the money donated compare to the range for Caitlin's school and Philip's school? So in a box plot, we can find two measures of spread pretty easily, right? So let's do Caitlin here. Let's do Phil down here. Let's do the range right there. And let's do the IQR over here. Okay. So for Caitlin, right, the range is going to be the maximum minus the minimum. So here's her max. I would say it's a roughly about 68. We are counting by ones, and here's the min. And we are roughly 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 25. So we'll go for Caitlin, we'll go 68 minus 25, and that gives us 43. So Caitlin's range was $43, right? It's money donated. Okay, if we go to Philip's range, Philip's max and min are exactly the same. So we'll do 68 minus 25 again, which is $43. So based off of the range alone, we would say that Caitlin and Philip's spread is the same. Now, the question is, if we look at just the range, would that be a good way to compare them? If you look at the two box plots, are the box plots exactly the same? And I would say no, they're not the same, right? The position of the box is different for both of them. So now let's find the IQRs. Remember that the IQR is your third quartile minus your first quartile. So for Caitlin, it looks like her third quartile is 52 minus, and her first quartile is 32. So she has an IQR of $20. So that is the spread of the middle 50%. Now, I think it's also important to identify that her median, 2, 3, 4, 5, is $45. And that has a median of 45. And I'll talk about that in a second. Okay. Now, for Philip's IQR, his third quartile is here, which looks to be about right there, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is 56. Minus, and his first quartile is right here. It's actually her median, right? So his first quartile is 45. And that gives you a spread of $11. And again, his median, which is higher, is at $50. So when we talk about the IQR, right, the IQR is how spread the middle 50% is. But I think it's also important to quantify it with the median. So for Caitlin, her median is 45. So that's the middle value that her people are giving. And then there is a $20 range around that 45. So going down to about, I mean, if you were to kind of try to quantify this, going down to about 35, going up to about 55, right? Around there, roughly. Versus Philip, his median is 50. His median is higher than Caitlin's, and his IQR is smaller, which means that more people are giving more because the median is 50, and now his range, interquartile range, is making his median go down to 45 to 55. So the numbers that most of the people are giving are higher and closer than for Caitlin, right? So again, ranges and IQRs are tough to quantify. Again, typically, we don't want the data to be spread out. We want it to be very focused, very tunneled on the middle. Okay. All right, very good. So there's the first video. Second video is coming up.